Hello, I am Amfortas, and the title of my podcast today is The Degradation of Women by Feminism. Feminist women claim that the empowerment of women came only after a hard-fought liberation from the repressive identity that reduced a woman's worth to her body parts. Women have minds, they said. These tough-minded suffragettes, pioneers of the women's movement, risked everything in the fight for rights and equal treatment under the law for women and a recognition of women's minds. So the story goes. But that feminism has been stolen. According to Bridget Geoghegan-Blanton of the National Writers' Syndicate, feminists have squandered that legacy of the early 20th century suffragettes with an assault on the fundamental dignity of women. She shows that in a dark retreat to the claimed repressive past, feminists are now claiming that a woman's worth is defined by and limited to her body parts. Just one, in fact. The message is propagandized under the guise of art in the demeaning and womanhood destructive theatre production known as the Vagina Monologues. From America, and now into the heart of Australian womanhood, the annual goose step onto the university campuses and civic theatres of this exercise in female degradation is announced every Valentine's Day with a shock value PR tactic such as 40-foot inflatable vaginas. On and around February the 14th, there are performances of the Vagina Monologues in hundreds of cities all over the world, the producers claim. The aim? To raise awareness and funds, your money, to help prevent domestic abuse and violence. Actually, strike that. It leaves men and children out altogether. It is all about agitprop. Sheer mendacity and attempts to insult the intelligence of women are found in the deceptive words used on internet sites and billboards, theatre programmes and advertising material. Hilarious, witty, poignant, brave and thoroughly human stories, says Western Australian Play Lovers director Sue Hayward. She is simply parroting the agitprop conveniently written by feminist playwright Eve Ensler's Publicity Machine, describing sold-out runs off Broadway and London's West End. The language, hiding an offensive strike against traditional values, is actually a covert attempt to hijack the romance and love associated with this day and replace it with a message of male-hating and female sexual deviance. In textbook leftist style, supporters of the play cloak their attack on normal values and morality under the guise of promoting awareness about violence against women. One does not have to be a prude to see a weak excuse for pornography, but to disguise it as awareness of abuse is abuse of women's minds and sensitivities. Amnesty International cannot stop itself aligning with such left-wing agitprop in order to raise funds, as in the V-Day Melbourne 2009 at the National Theatre in St Kilda. There, Amnesty had a letter-writing action, getting members of the audience to send pre-printed letters to your local MP. They say their deception is crucial in obtaining enough funds to be allocated in a national budget for a national plan of action. They don't say it is a manipulative means to expropriate public monies, make women victims and assault their minds, and rather diverting from the release of prisoners of conscience from overseas dictators' jails. your conscience is manipulated. Maybe you should be writing to your MP with your message, rather than have manipulated and deceived audience members send Amnesty's Marxist feminist agitprop. They have stolen the message of violence against women. This play, The Vagina Monologues, is violence against women. The play is a non-stop obsession with a body part and imparts zero information regarding the defence against or recovery from sexual assault. In fact, it glorifies sexual assault as long as a woman is doing it. The play has raised funds everywhere, and it is abundantly clear that groups that have nothing to do with the provision of services for women in need benefit from the cash raised. Promoters of the play peddle their pornographic anti-male propaganda behind a smokescreen of feel-good phrases like empowerment, breaking the silence, liberating women, and provocative. What silence, by the way? The term provocative is a rather benign description of vignettes that feature and applaud pedophilia and sexual perversion. As far as the dollar amount raised by the production, it's an unfortunate reality that pornography sells, even to women. The real question is, why would legitimate charities accept donations from a production that degrades women? The playwright Eve Ensler glorifies lesbian statutory rape with a demoralizing depiction of a 13-year-old girl who is first plied with vodka and then raped by a 24-year-old lesbian. This is not empowering. It is a criminal act. The female audience is not asked to condemn it, but see it as the liberation of a young person's nascent sexuality. Well, she would see it that way, wouldn't she? Ensler is a pervert. If she had a penis, she would be in jail. But who jails feminists? Feminists are quick to claim that a man giving an adult woman a glass of wine before sex is guilty of rape. But a woman pouring alcohol into a 13-year-old young person, before raping her is empowerment and expressing sexuality. Are you disgusted? If not, ask yourself why not. In some productions, they have changed the age of the child to 16. Ah, well, that's okay then. To feminists, it is fine to make public sport of the rape of someone's 16-year-old daughter, yours perhaps. The rape of a child is beyond depraved. 16 is a child. It can cause lifelong trauma. Ensler proposes a trauma cure. But to date, no miraculous recoveries from the horror of child rape have occurred after the frenzied chanting of the magic word cunt, as is vocally encouraged in the Vagina Monologues. It is a triple insult to make women pay to go into a theatre and then get them to chant cunt, cunt, cunt at the top of their voices, like potty-mouthed kiddies in the schoolyard, and when a 13 or 16-year-old is being raped on stage. This is what their posters call witty, compassionate, and wise. Is that word a bit of a shock to hear on a podcast? Cunt? Not if a feminist gets you to say it, apparently. It is liberating. Do you feel liberated? I can think of better words to describe it, but they can't be spoken on a podcast without giving even greater offence. Witty and wise, it ain't. No devoted rank-and-file leftist is worth their tainted salt if they fail to take a swipe at the Catholic Church or any other Christian denomination. You're not considered part of the girls' club if this rite of passage is left undone. In the Vagina Monologues, well-known, indeed celebrated actresses describe vagina sightings and miracles in an ugly, rapacious sneer and smear against other women who have a faith in something a lot more wholesome than feminism. Only the feminist religion is sacred to sick minds. Ensler scored high with secular progressives by employing this standards-bashing method against the Catholic veneration of the Virgin Mary. And with the praise of female perverts and lesbian rapists of children, and the outright condemnation of men as misogynist predators, Ensler takes it further and portrays all men as one-dimensional characters who are either lewd adulterers or violent rapists. That the members of the audience have fathers and sons and brothers, even husbands, that they love, is thrown in their faces. That a woman rapes is a call for applause and cheering on. The subtext of the Vagina Monologues is, women in the audience, you have paid to watch us insult you. You are stupid. Your feelings are stupid. You are so stupid that we can manipulate you just by saying empower or liberate. We have ways of making you laugh even when you are revolted. By the way, your son is a rapist. Supporters of the play falsely claim that an anti-male bias doesn't exist. Ha! When challenged with an anti-male charge, promoters fire back with the claim that opponents to the play just hate sex. Talk about a bizarre, pointless, out-of-left-field comeback. This makes no sense whatsoever. But then again, this is what you get when you debate haters of traditional values. They don't debate, they assassinate. A long-standing inability to debate on merit requires the oh-so-tedious fallback on smears and name-calling. All opposition to the Vagina Monologues is met with hysterical complaints from the left about censorship. These censorship specialists, the left, are the first to throw the concept out there. After all, they're the ones that routinely censor discussions with career-ending threats. They're the ones who have censored textbooks to remove the phrase mum and dad. They're the ones that remove all references to God as dictated by their dehumanizing statist agenda. They are the ones who want the internet censored. They are the ones who have replaced mother and father on birth certificates with parent A and parent B. Call it as you see it. The last time I looked, I still have the right to speak out against the rubbish, the cultural rot, and the disingenuous promotion of this play that is inherently anti-male as well as degrading to women. And so do you. The overt sexualization of our children and our culture is part of the Marxist feminist grand design. Demoralize, desensitize, and ultimately dehumanize. Destroy Western culture, remove God, demonize morality, and eventually it erodes the human soul. Bridget Blanton says, telling me that I'm repressed because I see this play as an attack on culture is a fundamentally weak argument and lacks even foundation in truth. By the way, those of us opposed to this play, she says, failed to be impressed with your roster of Hollywood endorsements. Essentially, it's meaningless because opposition to the play in Hollywood would result in blacklisting. The feminist left looks ridiculous lecturing its opponents on censorship when they have engaged in it all the time. Recently, Bridget participated in a public protest against the production of the Vagina Monologues at her local theatre, along with 5 other like-minded individuals, just 5 good women. They attended a televised city council meeting and read aloud from the play after announcing in advance that the material would not be suitable for minors. They hoped to bring awareness to the degrading and deviant subject matter of the play to a public that was only being told that the play was provocative. Is Bridget's action something you should be considering? The protest was reported in the local papers in a tongue-in-cheek fashion. The op-ed pieces in response to the protest seemed to be penned by the typical retarded feminist troupettes who use words like celebrate and diversity in their hyperletters of support for the play. And unfazed Bridget said, "Although I know we have supporters out there, they're allowing the left to intimidate them into silence. Watching us get raked over the coals of political correctness was just too distasteful. In the long run, a price will be paid for allowing immorality that is devastating our culture and our youth to move forward unchecked." The Vagina Monologues has nothing to do with the empowerment of women. It is the crude fantasy of a woman who claims to have spoken with over 200 women in relation to the play, who may or may not even exist. Ensler claimed that she was worried about her vagina and what it would wear if it went out. Most normal women just wear underpants and turn their mind to real issues. Unfortunately, this play and the attacks on our culture is being welcomed relatively unchallenged onto university campuses and city theatres across Australia. One organisation in the US that has stood up to truly empower women and oppose the degradation wrought by the Vagina Monologues is the Claire Booth Luce Policy Institute. They have put together an organised, informed, systematic protest uniquely suited for uses on university campuses. Look them up. And now, an enlightened and uplifting alternative is available. The Vitae Monologues, the Monologues of Life, made its debut at the University of St. Thomas and St. Paul in the US city of Minnesota in early March 2009. The point is that we cannot enable and facilitate the unhinged concepts of the godless, society-destroying feminist left to be entrenched into the minds of our youth without engaging them in battle for hearts and minds. The true empowerment of a woman lies in the development of her soul, her mind, and her physical and creative self, not the obsession with a single body part. Now, altogether, chant cunt. No, don't do that. Chant, take back the woman's right to be a decent woman. When these wreckers come to your town with their vagina monologue art, take some rotten eggs. This immature filth is demeaning, divisive, and destructive, and deserves ridicule. And ladies, ditch feminism and demand family rights. Join the men who fight for families and decency for our children. Thank you for listening to a mere man, one who respects decent women. This has been Amfortas, with the production assistance of Christian J. I would like to acknowledge Bridget Blanton for her article published on her blog smartgirlnation.com and commend both mensnewsdaily.com and Carl Matthews antimisandry.com for their support and encouragement. I dedicate this podcast to my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased, and my estranged daughter that I miss grievously.